everybody. My name is Brad Leighninger. I'm the pitmaster of Gettin Basted. I am the 2020 Kansas City Barbecue Society Team of the Year and Team of the Year in Ribs. And we are here today to kick off grilling season. I'm a professional pitmaster, so I do this for a living, lucky enough, thank goodness. I'm gonna teach you how to cook this wonderful cut of meat. We're gonna cook some spare ribs today in your backyard. When you're at the grocery store, you're looking for a rack of ribs. What I like to do is look for the intermuscular marbling. That's gonna be the main thing, the main key you're looking for. You know, they're all pretty good, but if you can get the ones with the intermuscular, the fine white lines of fat inside of the meat, that's gonna put you a step ahead in your backyard. So all we're doing, this is a St. Louis cut already. So what we're gonna do is just trim this thing down so it's nice and even, so it cooks even on our grill. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over, and you can see there's a little bit of this fat and a little bit of this loin muscle that's attached there. We're gonna cut that off. That's not gonna cook up any good. So we're just gonna slide that across there, take it up, and we're just gonna square this off down here at the end. Come in here and just trim a little bit of this fat off the backside. And then this next part is where barbecue wars are started. Do we take off the membrane or do we leave it on? I like to do a little bit of a hybrid. I don't mind having it on there. I like how it protects the rib and it keeps a little bit of the moisture in there. And it also keeps these bones from flying out. As this thing gets tender, it's gonna cook down and these bones wanna pop out. We wanna give, you know, when I'm cooking, I wanna give the judges a good bite. You wanna give your family a good bite of ribs. So we're gonna leave the membrane on the top part. So we're just gonna squirt across here. And then if you grab a paper towel, it's really easy. You can just get in there and kind of work that membrane free. And then just give it a pull, and that's gonna pull that membrane across. If you don't get it all, don't worry about it. It'll generally cook out. You can come back later. You can just kind of flick it off with a knife. Or a restaurant trick a lot of people do is even take this and just score it. And as that thing cooks down to tender, it's actually gonna kind of dissolve in there and get rid of it. But we'll take a little bit of it off today and cook it. Then you can come back here and clean up a little bit. All I'm trying to do is just get rid of any noticeable fat pockets and get a nice, even rib. There's not really a whole lot of work to do on these things. That's a good thing how they come. It's a St. Louis cut, St. Louis spare. You've got a little bit of a hump here where they got a little bit uneven on the trim. You can come back in and even that up so you don't have a spot that's sticking up that's gonna take a little bit longer to cook. We want this thing to be perfectly tender from top to bottom. And that's really it right there. That's our St. Louis cut spare rib. The reason why I like spare ribs is just because you can look at all of that fat on there. There's a lot of connective tissue on there. It's just a more flavorful cut of meat. It's a little bit fattier, not quite as lean, and that means we're gonna get more flavor out of this guy. So we're gonna just sit there and you could trim these up ahead of time. But then the next thing is about probably half an hour before we go on our grill, we're gonna season them up. And it doesn't really matter what seasoning you use, just find a good all-purpose seasoning at the grocery store. It's gonna have a little bit of color that's gonna be from paprika, a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of salt, and then some onion, garlic, some aromatics in there. But it doesn't really matter what brand or what you get, just get one that looks good, one that you like. And we're just gonna come in here and give a nice, even coat across the backside. And they call it a rub, but we don't really rub it. You know, we may come in here and just pat it, just to make sure it adheres. And then we'll come over, flip it over, and we'll do that top side of that rib. And don't be shy. Get some seasoning on there. And now all we're gonna do, what's gonna happen is the salts in this is gonna start to pull a little bit of moisture out of the meat, and it's gonna liquefy a little bit on top of that meat. And that's gonna take about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And while we're doing that, we're gonna go outside, we're gonna get our grill ready. All right, we're out back and we're gonna barbecue our ribs. There's a subtle difference between grilling and barbecuing. Grilling's typically high heat, direct heat. you're gonna do something that's a quicker cooking cut, they're gonna do these. These ribs like a little bit more time to get tender. They're gonna be taken to a higher temperature, so we're gonna barbecue them. I'm cooking on a drum style smoker today, but it doesn't matter what you're cooking on. The technique is exactly the same. What we wanna do whenever we set up our grill or our drum for cooking is we wanna give ourselves options. So basically, if you're on a gas grill or a charcoal grill, only light half of it. That way you've got a hot side and a cold side, so if things start moving too fast, too much grease dripping on the fire, whatever's happening, you've got a way to slide that off. And it doesn't matter what you're cooking. That's always a good idea. So on this drum cooker, what we're gonna do to do this is we're gonna use just a piece of foil and block about half of our fire over there. And that'll give us options to be able to swing stuff onto the fire, off the fire, give us the flavor that we're looking for. Wood is another thing when you're barbecuing that you're looking for. You don't want to use too much. Wood's an ingredient. It's just like salt. It's just like anything else. You can definitely over smoke meat. And I would say that the number one thing that people make mistakes when they're getting into barbecuing is they use too much wood. We're only going to use a couple of chunks. We've got a natural hardwood charcoal in here that's going to give us a lot of flavor. And we're using a couple of chunks of cherry wood, any kind of fruit wood, pecan, whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. We're going to throw those down in there, right on the fire. And then we're gonna take our ribs and go straight on the rack. We're cooking at 300 degrees today. I like, we're low and slow, but we're on the hot side of low and slow. So we're trying to get things moving a little bit. My theory is that, you've got a dry environment. You've got a lot of heat. It's kind of an intense environment for a piece of meat. So the quicker that we can get something on there, get it tender, get it flavored, and get it off there, the better off we're gonna be. So we're just gonna start out like that. Like I said, 300 degrees. We're gonna come back and check these about every 20, 30 minutes. Don't be afraid to play with your food. If one of them's cooking faster than the other one, move it. You can switch things around, spin your grate, do whatever, man. Cooking's supposed to be fun. Get in there and make it an active process. It's probably gonna be about an hour and a half to 2 hours before we take these things and wrap them up. All right, it's been about 45 minutes or so. Let's give these ribs a look. Oh, they're looking good. You can see what we're looking for. That rub's starting to tack up. We've got a little bit longer to go before it's ready to wrap. But one of the things I like to do on the drum smoker, and it just depends on what you're cooking on. If you're on a pellet grill, you may not need to do this. If you're on your outdoor gas grill, you may not need to roll them over. But I like to flip them over. You can kind of see how we're getting some color, getting a little bit of pop of sizzle on there. Some of this yellow fat coming out is exactly what we're looking for. If you see anything on there you don't looks like you want to eat, go ahead and pull it off there right now. This isn't rocket science here, man. We're just burning meat in a parking lot right now. There's nothing mysterious about it. Best way to learn is just get in there and start cooking. You can see that stuff popping. Exactly what we're looking for. One of the cool tips I remember when I first got into professional barbecue that blew my mind, you always have those big gloves that, you can't do anything with. They're big old mittens. If you just go and get a cheap pair of cotton gloves and then you top them up with a nitrile glove, then you can actually use your hands. You can get in there and you're protected. This protects you from the heat. This protects you from the moisture. As long as you don't get a hole in that nitrile glove, you can sit there and play with your food all day long. So now that we got those rolled over, we're gonna start getting a little bit more color on the bottom half. And we're gonna come back here in about 30 minutes and check them again. All right, we're gonna give our ribs a look. Smoky. And that's what we're looking for right there. You can see we're getting a little bit of that fat popping on there, a little bit of color. We're ready to wrap these things. There's no set time. It's been about an hour and a half since we put them on, but don't get caught up in time. Barbecue, each piece of meat is different. You can't time out barbecue. That's tip number one. When we go to wrap these, at this point, we're looking to braise. So we've been running at a pretty high temperature, about 300. At this point, we want to knock it down to about 250. We want to be careful. We're going to put some sugar in here. We're going to put some sweet in here, but we want to be careful not to get too much sugar because that sugar will burn. First thing we're going to do is just take a barbecue sauce. And again, make sure you pick one that's a little bit more on the savory side than super sweet. We're going to cover that up. We've got turbinado sugar. Turbinado sugar is important because it has a higher burn point than regular brown sugar. If you put regular brown sugar in there, you might actually get like a rib brulee on the bottom, which isn't what we're trying to go for today. So we're gonna put just a little bit on top, go as much as you want. And then barbecuer's best friend, we're gonna put a little bit of butter right on top of there. And that's all we're looking to do. It doesn't really matter. You just want to put a little bit of liquid in there. You can put some apple juice in there if you want. You can use flat out water. At the restaurant, we put water in there, man. It's just whatever you want to do. But a little bit of sauce adds a little bit of flavor. We're going to get a little bit of liquid later on to help us make our sauce. So we want it to taste good. And I always go with the double wrap, thick aluminum foil. The last thing you want to do is put all of that liquid in there, work really hard, and then you lose it when you tear it over the fire. So we're just gonna roll them up, wrap it up tight, and that's gonna go back onto our grill. And we're gonna start checking these probably in about 25 to 30 minutes. We wanna keep a close eye on them because it won't take them long to get ready. Again, another one of our fighting points in barbecue. Are we gonna wrap meat side up? We're gonna wrap bone side up. I like to go meat side up just because I took a long time to get that bark on there. I don't want to put that down in there and then just boil it off, if that makes sense. So I like to keep my bark up out of that liquid, just so I have that nice color that we worked so hard to get. And at this point, if you got tired, you didn't feel like tending a fire, you can absolutely take these into a 250-degree oven. Right now, that's all we're looking for. We're looking for a slow braise just to finish them up so they're tender. We put the liquid in there, we put them in the foil. That helps maintain the juices. You can not wrap if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. If you just want to keep going, go until they're tender on here. Just understand you're going to have a little barkier product. Might not be as moist and it might not be as tender, but it's definitely going to have that flavorful bark on the outside. It's all just however you want to cook it. But we're wrapping them up today. I'm going to go for that competition style rib. So we're going right back on the cooker, and we're gonna start checking these after about 20 minutes. It's not gonna take them long. And when we check them, I'll show you what that's like, but we're really looking for the bend test. We gotta pick them up, get your hands in there, and you're gonna feel how tender they are. So about 20 minutes, we'll come back and we'll check on them again. All right, it's been about 15 minutes. We're gonna check these things, see if they're done. And again, the best way to check these is just use your hands. And you can see that's starting to split now. If I give it a good bounce, it's gonna tear in half. That means it's done. If I had to guess, I'd say these are probably 208 to 210 degrees. But remember, barbecue is a function of time and temperature. So don't just go looking at a temperature saying that's where it's gonna finish. The hotter you cook, the higher your finishing temperature is going to be. So we were cooking at 300, so our finishing temperature is pretty hot. If you were cooking at 225, let's say at a pellet grill or something like that, your finishing temperature is gonna be closer to 200. So always use your senses. Get in there and poke it, pick it up. You rely on that when you're doing barbecue instead of the actual temperature of the meat. We're gonna check this last one. And you can tell that one's done. Look at that cracking. That's exactly what we're looking for. And this is a beautiful rack of ribs right here. That'd be the one the judges are getting if I was at a competition. I can tell you that right now. So we're gonna take these inside, let them rest. The good thing about barbecue is that it's better the longer it sits. You can actually get this done before your guests get here, drop them into a cooler, or you can wrap them in a towel, put them in a warm oven, and let it sit, and they'll actually get better with time. So the cool thing is we can let them rest, come out here, and then finish them up right when our guests get here. That way we're not under a time crunch. So we're gonna take these in, come back out, and we'll finish them up here in a little bit. All right, when you're ready to finish these, they've been inside resting, just open them up, take them out of the juice, and then I like to put a little glaze on them. Turn this way a little bit here. I'm gonna start out with the back side. They are tender, so be careful. We're gonna come with a good barbecue sauce. Just a good glaze. Just put a little strip of it on the back. You can always go in for a little juice. Give it a brush. And always season. Come back just with a little bit of our seasoning. Not too much. Got to play the wind outside. It's part of it. And then these are going to go straight on the grill. And then let's come back and do the same thing with our top side. And again, we're not looking to set this sauce hard. We're just looking to just glaze it up. So maybe we'll leave them on here for 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. You can already see that shine. Come back with a little bit of our seasoning. Like I said, a couple minutes tops. Just let that rub tack up a little bit, or that sauce tack up a little bit. And we'll come back in, pull them in there, take them inside and slice them. And we'll have our perfect bite of St. Louis style spare ribs. All right, it's been a couple of minutes. We're gonna take these guys off, take them inside and slice them up and eat. Look at that thing. All right, we've got our ribs back in, glazed them up outside. It's time to slice them up and serve them. You can always tell if they're done right just by how they cut. That feels right. Slice them up. Take a little look here. Got cheat. See that? Looks like the perfect spare rib to me. Slice them up. I like to serve these, man. Potato salad is my thing. A little bit of potato salad, maybe some corn on the cob. Get summer going right. I want to thank you guys for joining me today to cook these delicious spare ribs. Hopefully this gives you the confidence you need to tackle this delicious cut of pork.